Hi, welcome to an episode of She Builds. We are here at Women of the Cloud Summit in New York City. And my name is Andrea, and I'm here with my co-host Candice. The She Builds program is about helping women close the skill gap and help women learn some of the tricks and tips and advance in their careers, both as a technologist, but also as leaders in businesses. So today we are going to focus on equity and diversity in organizations. I'm super excited to have two lovely guests here with us, Miriam and Matt. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
So let's just understand a little bit more about Miriam. What do you do at Amazon?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in an interesting job. I'm an enterprise strategist, unique group. We're about 12. We're all former executives, customer executives. So prior to AWS, I was a CIO at Coca-Cola for many years. I was at Coke for 26 years in all. So in a variety of roles. But now at AWS, I work with our customers on their journey to adopting cloud technology, mostly at the executive level. And get to interact all around the world with customers that are working hard to build new organizations, more agility, leveraging technology.
Awesome. And Matt, the same question for you.
Yeah, so I lead our data sales organization in our specialty team in WWSO. And really what that means is the specialty sellers and the go-to-market resources that help our customers become data-driven organizations, both from a culture and strategy perspective, but also implementing our native capabilities to deliver the outcomes that they're looking for.
Oh, wonderful. So maybe a follow-up question to that, Matt. What drove you to come here? What motivated you, inspired you to attend today's summit?
Yeah, I think for me, as a business leader, having representation in my organization, I've actually experienced that firsthand, how that delivers the best results. And I'll give you a really good example. A couple of years ago, I was doing a best practice sharing session in my organization. And so I looked back at the year and I said, what were the best, most complex deals that we did that delivered value for the customer? And so I picked the 4 largest, most complex deals. And I found they didn't have a whole lot in common, except every single one of them had a account manager that was a strong female. And so I actually had them on this call, and I was very deliberate, where I went off camera, and it was great that says, this is what great looks like, and every face on the screen was a female face. And so I thought that was a really good example, and I'm like, I want more of this. And so for me, this is really important.
Wonderful. And same question for you, Miriam.
Yeah, having a women-focused event is powerful, right? I've spent 37-ish years in technology. And, I'm often the only woman in the room, especially at the executive levels. And so bringing women together, because women are more community people, right? We need a village. And so having this set up so that women meet other leaders that aren't leaders because they're women. They're leaders. Full stop.
Yeah. I love that. So let's go just like another layer deeper. Like, why do you think it is so important that women are involved in technology? You both talked about how great it is and our community, but why is it? Like, what do you think we bring to the table as women? And maybe Miriam, would you like to kick that off?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of us are involved in encouraging young women, particularly to get into the STEM fields. Yeah. Because, our media, the environment that children grow up in doesn't really promote that that's cool.
Yeah.
Right? If you've seen the blockbuster movies that just came out, right? Barbie and Oppenheimer. Barbie for the girls. Oppenheimer was all men as scientists. And so we've got to help break that down so that girls see technology as a cool place to be, because it is, right? The opportunity to solve problems, to work with very intelligent people to, have the dynamics of the changing landscape that technology brings. It's an exciting field. I don't think we market it well.
Yeah.
I think for me, as I look at this, technology has become ubiquitous and pervasive.
Yeah.
It's in our phones, it's in our TVs, it's in our cars. And because of it, that ubiquitous nature, everyone in our population is represented. But if not everybody is represented in the development of what that technology is, how it should work, we're going to have misses in adoption. And so making sure that that is known and welcoming in, that says you are needed into this space, I think is absolutely critical. I think the other thing that's really important is, because it is so ubiquitous, small biases that may be unintended can get amplified and magnified across the board. So just use something like just using masculine pronouns in everything may impact subconscious that this is only a male role. And so I think there are things that we need to think about in the technology space that maybe not the first thing that I think of as a male, but if I have that diverse perspective, it's going to be something that gets brought to the table.
Yeah. Well, and just to build on your point, Matt, those unconscious biases, and we're not doing it on purpose, but if you don't have women as part of the builders, right? A bunch of guys are going to get together and group think. And you have to have a diverse set of people, different backgrounds, different cultures, male, female, right? All of the differences that we bring to the table. If you're going to get technology that represents our consumer base, and so we talk to our customers about that, because I obviously came from a consumer products industry. And if you want to develop products for a broad range of consumers, you need to represent those consumers in the development of those products.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. So following to that, Miriam, the question for you, how in your organization, how do you ensure that diversity is considered in decision-making process?
Yeah, for me, when I was leading very large teams globally. We, as a leadership team, we were at Coca-Cola very culturally diverse, which was powerful just from the start, because that just brings things that you were not aware of, not even unconscious. You just weren't aware of these cultural differences in Japan, or differences in China or Europe or Latin America or the US and parts of the US. And so we value cultural diversity, gender diversity, diversity of color, and diversity of thought, right? I think is sometimes missed, but I like people who think differently, right? You have your organized people, and then you have your free thinkers, right? And we did all the different, brain scan thingies to figure out, what box you fell into. But just having that diversity of thought, because it challenges your approach, and it makes the solution better.
And I think one of the things that's really important is, yes, you want to have that diversity represented in the room, but you also have to have that intentional inclusion. It is something that is deliberate. It doesn't, just because you have diversity represented in a decision-making process, doesn't mean that all those people will be included. And especially as a leader, you have to make sure that you bring and call out and invite that diverse opinion, welcome it, know that it is valued, get it on the table so that you can have that discussion. So I think one of the biggest things to do is, regardless of where you are, whether that is in the candidate process, the hiring process, the promotion process, the leadership process, yes, you want to have that representation, but diversity is a deliberate act. It is a deliberate act of inclusion and understanding that it brings value. And as a leader, the part that we need to do is invite that in.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah.
and give it a voice.
Yeah.
Right.
And especially if that voice maybe doesn't feel necessarily as confident in sharing that, or doesn't feel like that voice may be valued as leaders, we have to make sure that that is perceived and seen as valued.
No, thank you.
I really appreciate that. You don't want to get stuck in the group think, got to pull everyone into the conversation and give them the room for that. So I really like these points you guys are making. What would you say are some of the biggest barriers and challenges we have today for making this more inclusive environment, for bringing women and the more maybe timid people into that conversation? How do we do that?
I think it starts, and one of the things we talk about at Amazon is working backwards.
Yes.
And so we can see where we are, and it's not where we want to be. But if you work backwards, you have to go back through, all right, are we doing the right things in the promotion process? Are we doing the right things in the hiring process? Are we doing the right things all the way back through education? You talked about, how do we market and make STEM an attractive field for girls? And so I think it really goes back to making sure that we can't just solve the end result. We have to go back in and look at all of the inputs and be diligent about what we're doing and deliberate about what we're doing in every single stage, so that we aren't trying to take a small pool and say, how do we make that fit into representation, especially in the executive ranks and leadership, but say, how do we get it so that the pool is so large, but we can't help but have the right representation in leadership?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I love the working backwards from the problem, because this isn't where we should be in 2023, that we're so excited just to have a women's event. I mean, you're really? And so we do need to be more purposeful in our actions, in what we're doing to include more people into this program as young people, but people in mid-career, because we lose women, right? When they are feeling like they have to choose between a family and work, because of the travel, because of the demands, because of all of the things. And I go back to my comment that you need a village. When I started, I tried to be superwoman, right? I have 3 kids. I'm working, I'm traveling, I'm doing the whole thing. Not a good plan, right? Build yourself a village, right? Get people to support you. That's why these events are so important, because you start to build that village. I should have built mine earlier, but tech is actually a very small world.
It is.
Right? And I have built mine over time, and I keep running into the same people, right? Which is a wonderful thing. I've gotten to work with Matt now over a series of years, right? That village will support you. And that's what I think, at least for once we get the women in, we lose them again because they think they have to choose.
I think one of the things, when you talk about that village, as a male and as an ally, I think it's really important to be part of that village. One of the things that I heard that really stuck with me, and Tanuja over in EMEA said this in a fireside chat. She said, women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. And I was just like, and I said,
that's a really good way to say it.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, wow, I'm mentoring and I'm talking to women about, here's what I did, but they're not me. And they didn't have the same situation. And so realizing that I can add my voice about women that I sponsor in situations where they're not there. And that becomes so powerful and is a role that I think we as males can play as allies.
I personally think that's huge because, and I love the way Tanuja said it, because you have to sponsor and actually coach some women into taking a job. I've talked at several women's events. And, you know, when an opportunity comes up, a guy reads the description and goes, yeah, I can do about 20% of that. So, yeah, sure, I'm in.
Yep.
The women read the same description and say, I can only do 80% of that. So I'm not qualified.
Yep.
I'm like, and so they don't put their name forward. And I'm like, the guys are popping to the front of the line. You got to be willing to put it out there and take the chance, but you need a sponsor behind you, and or to have your back. Right? When you take that step out, it's very helpful to know that someone's back there going, you
can
got
do
this.
Yep.
No, I love that. Win the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So you have some backing. So as we wrap this up today, and love your perspectives of everything you shared so far, what are you mostly looking forward for today and, the events?
To me, it's exciting. The women, so, sometimes I look at my career and say, I've had the opportunity to do some cool things. And then I read the resumes of these women that are speaking today. And I'm like, it's amazing what is out there for us to accomplish at this point in time that, just wasn't available as I was coming along. And so I'm excited to hear the speakers, to meet some of the fabulous women that will be at the event.
Awesome. That's same for you.
I think for me, it's perspective. I get to get a different perspective. I've had it in talking to people as we've been planning this event. I still remember, it was probably 3 years ago, and I was looking at doing some kind of a women's summit, and I had this idea of what would make sense. And I go to Miriam and I say, what do you think of this? She's like, I want to be recognized as a leader, not as a woman.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so having that different perspective is going to educate me. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a
Yes,
very
thank
busy
you,
day,
guys.
but
Thank you.
Thank
Super
you for
excited.
including us.
Absolutely. We hope to see you again, and hopefully we'll have another chat and hear from you more perspectives.
Great.
But I wanted to thank our viewers for watching this episode of She Builds. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And thanks again for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.